Okay,
You ready, Tim?
it's going.
Okay. We often hear that feedback is vital, but how do you actually do it effectively in the classroom? Coming up next.
That's right, Scotty. We've got the author of the feedback. Uh-oh, somebody's buzzing. Oh, that's because you're on your phone, huh?
Yeah, let me silence that. Hang on a sec.
I don't know how. Yeah, I wouldn't even know how to silence it.
I have a way.
Okay,
I got this. I got this.
all good. This is all going to get chopped up in the editing room. So
All right. We're good, guys. Sorry about that.
No worries.
All right.
that's right, Scott. We've got the author of the Feedback Fix with us on today's show. It was published back in April of 2017. And Joe Hirsch. We got Mr. Joe Hirsch with us. He has been teaching in the classroom and in leadership capacities for over 12 years now. He's from Dallas, Texas, home of the Scott.
Dallas Cowboys. Woo!
Dallas Cowboys, okay. And he's
Not
finished.
so good this year, though.
He's finishing up his doctorate right now in educational leadership and innovation. And he's going to be telling us about feedback today. Welcome to the show, Joe.
Hey, guys. How are you?
I'm a poet and I don't know it. All right. So, Joe, tell us, give us a little synopsis about the Feedback Fix and why our listeners would be interested in reading your book.
Yeah, so great to be talking with you guys. Great to be hanging with you this afternoon.
Yeah.
Like so many people, I really struggled with the feedback that I was receiving in my work. And it made me wonder, is there a better way? Is there a better way for us to understand people's potential and performance? And as I started to look around at examples of successful companies and successful schools and practitioners who were doing this, I realized that the most successful people are not merely giving feedback, they're sharing feed forward. And that's not simply semantic. Feedback talks about a past that people can't change or control. Feed forward, on the other hand, is all about the still unwritten future, about the parts of people that don't necessarily come across in a performance review, but are no less important to their success, both in their professional and their personal lives. And so I started to investigate a little more. What does it mean to give feed forward? What are the dimensions of feed forward? And in the book, The Feedback Fix, I boiled it down to 6 principles known as repair, and explored what happens when companies and schools start giving feed forward. What impact does it have on people's ability to be creative, their ability to be more conscious and present in their work, the ability of teams to function and cooperate and get along better, and ultimately people's ability to be more resilient and stand on their own 2 feet.
So is that
Those are some of the things.
is that your term, feed forward? You came up with that one?
Feed forward is a term that's used by Marshall Goldsmith, who was kind enough to write the foreword to the book, and who is the world's #1 executive coach. And really, with feed forward, we're not simply changing the tune of what we're telling people. We're literally reinvigorating the entire message. It's no longer focused on who people are. We're focused on who they are becoming. And when we give feed forward, we help people achieve a version of themselves that they never knew, but maybe were always meant to become.
Joe, can I ask how is that different from like goal setting, or is it goal setting? Like how do I, yeah.
So when we give feed forward, we're actually bringing the receiver into the conversation and letting him or her play an active role in how that works. In fact, I think the best way to describe this to you would be something that I've actually been focusing on a lot lately, and that's the concept of a feedback wrap versus a praise sandwich. We've all received these praise sandwiches before. They're just awful. It's 2 slabs of compliments with a piece of criticism stuck in between, right? And it's rather popular among educators and coaches and managers, but it's like anything that's high carb and low protein. It's just not very satisfying. And there is a better way, and feedback wraps actually help us do that. So when you do a feedback wrap, you're actually taking into account a much more strategic and sensitive approach to what the other person needs and really what your needs are as well. Let me break it down for you. Let's say, you're in the classroom and you notice that you have a student that is really struggling with his behavior. Let's call him Johnny. Johnny just has been demonstrating over and over again patterns of really concerning behavior. He's not getting along with his friends. He's aggressive. He's showing behaviors that are concerning to you as a teacher and to his parents and even to his peers. So praise sandwich with Johnny might sound like this. Hey, Johnny, you're a really great guy. I like you a lot. Sometimes your energy gets the better of you. But you know what? When you're on track, you're like one of our best guys. So what do you say, Johnny? You turn it around. So that praise sandwich really lands ineffectively with most people, because research tells us that we tend to focus on and pay attention to the beginning and the end of the things that we hear. So when you tell Johnny, you're a great guy, and then you slip in the meat of the feedback sandwich and say, yeah, but you've got these behavior issues. But actually, Johnny, I think you're fantastic. Johnny hears how wonderful and fantastic he is, but he completely ignores the most critical and important part of that feedback message, and that's that he has something to improve upon and something to change. When we do feedback raps, we embrace the sometimes uncomfortable truths, and we bring the receiver into that conversation more squarely. So here's how you would redo that as a feedback rap. So you go to Johnny and you say, Johnny, I want to start by setting some context for you. And in that context, you would say, Johnny, I find that during class, you're demonstrating behaviors that are concerning to me. So you start with a context, and that would be like your actual rap. And then once you've framed that feedback and you've actually located it in a particular area, so the receiver is not thinking, well, is this going to be a pylon? Is this going to be a gotcha? Is this going to be a total takedown of my performance or who I am as a person? So you locate it more specifically and you say, it's really limited to this particular area. So Johnny, in this particular context, this is where I'm seeing a problem. It's in the classroom. And then after you've set that context, you start to layer on. You give specific and hopefully observable, even documented observations of what you've seen. So you would say, after setting the context, Johnny, just the other day, I noticed that when I was trying to lead a classroom discussion, you were very disruptive. You called out 3 times and you pushed Jimmy's books off his desk, which created a whole free-for-all in our classroom. And actually, Johnny, that wasn't the first time I saw that kind of behavior. I saw it actually 2 days prior, when you actually were being very disruptive in our literature circles and you were not allowing Sophia a chance to actually participate in the lesson and share her piece. So now I've given specific and observable data points so that Johnny not only has a context, but he has some scenery that adds value and understanding to it. So once you give the context and once you make the observations, you're going to add to that feedback rap by talking about the emotions that you, the giver, feel. And you make it about you for a very particular reason. Because we know, research tells us and experience proves to us, that people become very defensive when they start to hear negative feedback about themselves. And I've actually tried to document the positives of negative feedback. Sometimes it can be a good thing, but most people tend to take negative feedback really the wrong way. It creates defensiveness and aggression and ultimately is a shutdown. So instead of talking about the problems of the receiver and why he or she is contributing a problem to this, you make the emotions about what you are thinking and feeling. So after setting the context and making observations, I would describe my emotions and I would say, Johnny, when you're doing that in class, I feel very concerned. I feel concerned because I'm worried about you missing critical information. I'm worried about your friends not understanding something. I'm worried about the attitude that you're showing towards learning and the respect that you're showing or not showing to your peers. Instead of making them you statements, Johnny, you're really a jerk. And Johnny, what's wrong with you? Don't you know how to behave in class? You make the feedback about how you're feeling. You say, I feel that this is a problem because I feel concerned because I worry about this, Johnny, because. You can't argue with what someone else feels. That's something that only they can state with objectivity. So you're going to move the feedback out of the realm of debate and discussion, at least at this point, and make it about observable facts, clear context, and emotions that really can't be dissected or discussed because it's what I feel, and what I feel is valid. But now you bring it back. Yeah, go ahead.
No, what grade level am I mean, help me out on this, because I'm trying to figure out what grade level is this going to be most effective with. I can't, obviously, I haven't taught kindergarten, but I can't see having a conversation like that with a kindergartner necessarily going that exact same way as your example. I can picture conversations about that though, because I think kindergartners appreciate like how they make other people feel. But is there an age range you're aiming for this, or does that you just vary your vocabulary on the feedback, or could you get into that just a little bit?
Absolutely. I think language is very important, and obviously you want to right size the message whenever you're giving feedback for the audience. So if it's a younger child, then less talk is probably more helpful, and more visuals perhaps of maybe showing examples of what the child has been doing, or examples of behaviors like what the child has been doing, so that the child can let the picture or the image speak for itself. When you get it with older kids, probably starting even as young as second or third grade, you can start to be more conversant with the child, and really use language that is both descriptive, but also very targeted and precise. And as you go up the grades, it becomes, I think, even more important for the feedback giver to be specific with the language that he or she is using, because the more specific the language, the more precise the feedback message becomes, and the more clearly and convincingly that message lands with the other person.
Now, are we looking for something from the kid, the student that we're talking to, out of this? I mean, is there an end result where we're asking the child to commit to something, or are we asking their opinion on things, or their input?
That comes up in this step right now. So after you've given context and observations and described your emotions and how you feel in this process, you bring it over to them and you bring it to their doorstep. And this is why feed forward is so important, and why it's such a really big difference from traditional feedback, which is really only about the giver and not about the receiver. When you give feed forward in the form of feedback wrap, in the final stage, you're talking about input and what the other person sees and how they might partner with you in reaching a productive and positive solution. So back to Johnny, we might say, so Johnny, I've explained what I'm feeling and what I'm seeing. Do you see this too? Do you know what I'm talking about? Have you felt this in class? Do you know the kinds of things that I'm describing? And he may say no. And if he's saying no, then at that point, you may have to do a better job of actually having observable data, right? Because the things that exist in the world aren't really up for debate. It's when we get into the murky and unfamiliar and subjective that a lot of feedback breaks down. But if you're clear on the observations and you wait to have this conversation only once you've got really specific and observable incidents to report, it's probably not going to go that way. So when you present it to the receiver and say, "Are you seeing this?" They'll say, "Well, yeah, I know what you're talking about, but," and they may try to rephrase it. And that's where you, as the giver, stop talking and you start listening. Because being a good practitioner of feed forward means listening to what the other person is saying, more so even perhaps than what you, the giver, see. It's not so much what you know to be true as the giver, it's what the receiver already knows, but maybe hasn't revealed to you. And so when the receiver now has a chance to speak and Johnny's describing his suggestions for improvement, or perhaps giving his perspective on what he's seeing, you now are going to start truth tuning. You, the giver, now have information that maybe you didn't have before. And it can lead to a more productive and positive conversation with the receiver based around what the receiver is seeing and feeling as well. So this just opens up a conversation that's based on partnership and collaboration, and not on judgment and accusation.
So Joe, we don't do we or don't we want to have this in context of like misbehaviors? Like, do we want to wait until the misbehavior has gone by, things have settled down, and then have that conversation as like a reflective conversation after the emotions of whatever may have happened have happened, or is this something that we should, like, when it's hot, you like jump on it and you go for it right then?
Every situation will really depend on just how heated it gets. I think this method of feedback wrap really serves to de-escalate a lot of the tension and the conflict that often ensues when teachers or administrators have to move towards corrective feedback, because you're stating the facts, you're setting the stage, you're giving the receiver an understanding of how you feel, you seek understanding from the receiver, and then you can engage in a much more productive conversation rather than debate and discuss positions that may not be shared between giver and receiver. So look, if Johnny's super hot and really not in a place to receive any kind of feedback, or in a corporate setting, after an incident has happened and it's really just not the right time, it's probably best to wait until the iron is cold before we strike. At the same time, I've seen in my work and research supports that this method is very effective in de-escalating conflict, of creating more understanding, and ultimately producing the lasting and positive change that we want whenever we give feedback.
Joe, that's some just really good advice and information based on research. And it sounds like your book is really going to impact a lot of teachers. And so I appreciate you sharing those things, wetting our whistle a little bit and getting us primed and ready to read your book.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah, sounds good. So it's about that time where we're going to switch gears with you and play a little game, if you don't mind.
Absolutely.
All right. So, Joe, you've written a best-selling book called The Feedback Fix, and the subtitle of the book is something about dumping, embracing it, and leading. Is that right?
Yeah.
So, to celebrate your book, we're going to play a little game today that we're going to call Dump, Embrace, Lead. And we're going to
Sounds good. Never played.
Okay, we're going to ask you 3 questions, and they all very loosely have something to do with dump, embrace, and lead. Scott, why don't you tell our audience who Joe will be competing for today?
Joe, you're going to be competing for Janelle Crane, a 5th grade teacher in Tustin, California. If you're able to answer 2 out of 3 questions correctly, Janelle will be awarded a free download of a ridiculously popular edgy rock band, Tim Rockin' the Standards.
All right, Joe. So here we go with your first question. Our first question is a true story about a very bizarre boyfriend dumping. I'm sure your book has nothing to do with dumping boyfriends, but
yeah, my editor made me take that part out.
Okay.
That's where the feedback ends. Is that what you're saying? The feedback.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that was a feedback dump. That's what that was.
Okay, so here's what actually happened in this true story. The girlfriend said that bees can only fly because they think they can. And the boyfriend explains that no, there's actually a physical reason that they can fly. So a few days later, said girlfriend dumps the boyfriend.
What?
And so our question for you today is, what was her reason that she gave for dumping the boyfriend? Was it A?
The girlfriend claimed the boyfriend was too much of an ignoramus to take him seriously.
Or is it B?
The girlfriend claimed the boyfriend made her world less magical.
Or is it C?
The girlfriend claimed the boyfriend was cold and heartless for ruining her perfect world of bees.
So believe it or not, one of these was actually said by the girlfriend to explain why she dumped her boyfriend. Is it that he was too much of an ignoramus?
Did she tweet about this too? Is that how we know?
Yeah. Is it B, that he made her world less magical? Or is it C, that he was cold and heartless for ruining her perfect little world that she lived in?
Wow. That sounds like a complicated relationship.
If anymore.
Yeah, really. Gosh, some things aren't meant to be. I'm going to guess that she actually felt that he ruined the magic of bees for her. Maybe she saw the bee movie and was really just confounded by the fact that he didn't know this about them. And where are you on bees? I mean, don't you know this stuff?
And guess what? You're right.
Yeah.
Hey.
Yeah, she was just so disturbed that her world was less magical. All right. Well, moving right along, our next question is about embrace. According to a Washington state law, which has been in effect since 1927, it is illegal to do which of the following while embracing another person? Is it A?
Stand on a bridge over a river.
Is it B?
Drive a motorized vehicle.
Or is it C?
Bid at an auction.
So one of those is a real law about what you're not allowed to do while embracing someone else. Standing on a bridge over a river, driving a motor vehicle, or bidding at an auction. Which one do you think it is?
Well, most people are embracing sort of when they're riding their motorcycles. So let's take B out of that. Gosh, standing over a bridge. I've seen people taking selfies like that in California, so I'm going to have to go with C, bidding an auction.
Bidding at an auction. Well, believe it or not, your answer, your logic made a lot of sense.
Yeah, it did. I would actually now pick that answer as correct, Tim.
But yeah, it's actually illegal in the state of Washington to drive a motor vehicle while embracing. So I'm not sure how you would ride a motorcycle and be safe, but yeah, that's illegal.
Well, they have other laws there that make a lot more sense. So there you go.
All right. You still have another chance. Our third and last question.
We got to do this for Janelle. Janelle, you're probably right now sweating up. And you know what? We're going to do this. We got this.
We got this.
So our last question tied to your book title is about leading. According to last month's Bangkok Post news website, an elephant in captivity died because of something done by the owners. Which of these is the headline about what led to the elephant's death? Is it A?
Extreme temperatures led to the death of an elephant, like those that we're experiencing in California today.
Or is it B?
Lack of affection leads to the death of the elephant. They were hugging in a car, Tim.
They would have been arrested in Washington. Okay. Or is it C?
Overfeeding leads to the death of an elephant.
All right. So one of these is the actual headline that is in the Bangkok Post. Is it extreme temperatures lead to death of elephant, lack of affection leads to death of elephant, or overfeeding leads to death of elephant?
Well, I'm trying to find it right now on Google News, but I just I'm gonna have to go. I'm gonna have to go with my gut on this one, guys. Gosh, overfeeding sounds like it could be a real issue, but then again, it gets hot in Bangkok, right? But you know what? I have to think that all these eager people out there feeding them peanuts, which they probably don't even like anyways, just led to a total breakdown. They probably overstuffed them. I'm going to go with C, overfeeding.
Well, I'm sure glad that that's where you landed because C is correct. Yeah, the elephant. I didn't realize that was possible, but he died from overfeeding. Poor guy. Scott,
well, that's why they're 1,500 tons. So,
Scott, how did Joe do on today's quiz?
I think it depends on what you're feeding him, Tim. Good job, Joe. You got 2 out of 3 correct, and that's good enough to be a winner.
Woo!
All right.
Yeah.
All right, Janelle.
Yeah, congratulations, Joe. You've won absolutely nothing. But Janelle, she just won a free download of Rockin' the Standards Edulicious Rock album for 2nd through 6th graders. She's a 5th grade teacher. Tim, right in the sweet spot. She's going to love it.
And thank you, Rockin' the Standards, for supporting our show. Scott, we've got another sponsor now, don't we?
Yeah, a Global School Play Day. No, they're not a sponsor. They're just something we love. And we're so excited to promote Global School Play Day and just encourage you and anyone that's out there to share about what that's about. It's about bringing unstructured play back to kids' lives. It's been gone for too long, Tim. Last year we had over close to 300,000 kids from 51 nations participate in Global School Play Day in just the 3rd year. And it's really exciting to imagine. We're already, at this point, we're recording this show in October, over 70,000 kids from around the world. And we're thinking that by the time we actually hit the date, we're going to be close to 500,000 kids, if not close to 1 million.
Yeah, and we also want to thank our new sponsor. We'll get into them later on another show, but Edu Presenters, who's helping to sponsor the show now. You got to go check out their website. What is that? edupresenters.com. Is that right, Scott?
.com.
edupresenters.com. So go sign up if you want some education presenters, or if you are an educational presenter, sign up there, and it's kind of a dating website.
Tim, it is the marketplace for connecting districts and people that need presentations and training with high quality presenters that are out there.
Awesome. And Joe, why don't you let our listeners know how they can connect with you? Speaking of dating.
Oh yeah, I'm not single, but I would love to connect with all you guys out there. You can find me at Joe Hirsch, HIRSCH.me, and on Twitter at Joe M. Hirsch.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for coming on the show. And is your book on Amazon, I assume?
Yeah, book's on Amazon. Actually, as of today, it has only 3 copies remaining, and it's already in its 2nd reprint. So you may have to wait a little bit to get it, but I'd love to hear from all of your audience members out there about their experiences with feedback and how we can continue to change the tone of communications and help people become the best versions of who they are.
Beautiful. Love it, Joe. Great information, and that's definitely something that we need to fix on. I love the analogy with the sandwich versus the wrap. So thanks again for being on the show, and thanks for watching
Mom and Dad.
We love you, Mom and Dad.